In my last life, I tried to escape my husband. I tried to save my daughter. And I still ended up losing everything. Travis was the kind of man who could smile at the neighbors and then turn around and make the walls shake once the door closed. He didn't just have a temper. He had control issues, a talent for making apologies sound like threats, and a way of reminding me, quietly, carefully, that leaving him would end badly for both me and Lily. So I planned. I waited for one of his nights out, when he'd be gone long enough for me to move fast. I packed what I could, grabbed Lily, and vanished to another city like a ghost. New number. New routine. No contact with anyone who might slip. And I told Lily so many times it became a prayer, don't tell your father where we are. Not for any reason. Not for any excuse. She looked me in the eye and promised. Then I turned my back for a moment, one moment, and she texted him anyway. She missed her daddy. She wanted a real family. Travis didn't even have to work for it. He got our address out of her like he'd always done, soft voice, sweet words, the kind of charm that only ever showed up when he needed something. He found us. And in that little rental apartment I thought was safe, he hurt me so badly I never got back up. Afterward, Lily cried at anyone who would listen. She played the wounded child, the accidental witness, the one who didn't mean for anything to happen. In court she said it was a terrible mistake, that her father lost control for a second, that if I hadn't run, he wouldn't have gotten so angry. He didn't walk away free, but he didn't pay the way he should have, either. And when he got out, he and Lily stepped into a neat little life together, like I'd been nothing more than an inconvenient chapter. I remember thinking, right before everything went dark, that the cruelest part wasn't what Travis did. It was realizing I'd been betrayed by the child I'd bled for. Then, somehow, I opened my eyes. I was back in our living room, breathing, standing over an open suitcase. My hands were moving on their own, folding clothes, shoving them down like I'd done it 100 times. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. The air felt wrong in the way it does when you wake from a nightmare and realize you're still in the same house. No. Not a nightmare. A second chance. My stomach turned as memories slammed into me, Travis's voice, the slam of doors, the way he'd stand too close and smile like he owned the air I breathed. The way he told me, more than once, that if I ever tried to leave, he'd make sure I regretted it. In my last life, I ran with Lily. In this life, I was packing again, but my hands hesitated, hovering over a stack of Lily's shirts, Lily's socks, Lily's favorite toys. Half the suitcase was hers. Like always. Like my body and my time and my fear were hers, too. The bedroom door creaked. Lily walked in, ponytail swinging, small face already pinched with annoyance. She took one look at the suitcase and sighed like I'd inconvenienced her. "Mom," she said, dragging the word out, "are we running away again?" She nudged the suitcase with her foot, hard enough to bump it into the wall. Before I could answer, she rolled her eyes with an expression I had once mistaken for childish impatience. Now I recognized it for what it was, contempt. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Dad works hard. So he got mad and..." "Okay," he yelled and shoved you around a little. "Big deal." Her voice turned sharp, almost practiced. "If we run, he's just going to find us anyway. He always does." It felt like someone poured ice water straight into my chest. Those weren't the words of an 8-year-old who didn't understand. Those were the same excuses she'd made later, when she was older. The same excuses that had protected him and buried me. I stared at her, really stared, and something inside me went very still. "You tell him," I said, and my voice came out low and steady. "Don't you? Every time. You tell him where we are." Lily froze. Her eyes flicked away. For the first time, she looked uncertain, like she couldn't decide which version of herself would work best. Then she shrugged, too casual, too quick. "If I don't," she muttered, "then what? We're broke forever. I'm not sleeping in some gross place. And when he cools off, he'll be nice again." There it was. Not fear. Not confusion. A calculation. I thought of all the times Travis had miraculously shown up. The hotels. My parents' house. The places I picked because I swore no one could find them. I'd blamed luck. I'd blamed him. But the truth had been sitting right beside me, eating cereal with bright eyes and a sweet smile. My hands curled into fists. For a heartbeat I saw my last life like a flash, Travis at the door, Lily behind him, the way she clung to his arm as if he was the one who needed protection. I inhaled, slow and shaking. This time, I wasn't going to lose myself. I wasn't going to become what he wanted me to be. I wasn't going to do anything that could be used against me. So I didn't raise my hand. I did something colder. I reached into the suitcase, pulled out the things I'd packed for her, and set them on the bed like I was removing weight from my own body. Lily blinked. "What are you doing?" "I'm making a choice," I said. Her mouth twisted. "Mom." "Get out," I told her, still calm, still quiet. "Go to your father. Since you want him so badly." For a second, her face changed, rage, fear, something ugly and familiar. She stomped toward the hallway, then spun back and screamed, "I'll call him. I'll tell him everything. He'll make you sorry." I nodded once, like I was granting her permission. "Go ahead." She ran out, shouting and slamming doors, and I stood there in the sudden silence, staring at the suitcase that had once represented hope. I looked down at Lily's things, tiny shirts, bright hair ties, snacks I'd bought with money I hid, toys I'd cleaned after working all day, little comforts I'd provided while I wore myself thin. Not this time. I swept the rest of her belongings out of the suitcase and onto the floor. I packed only what I needed: my ID, my phone, cash, and the paperwork I quietly collected, documents, photos, anything that could become evidence if I ever got a real chance to fight back. In my last life, I bought train tickets and thought it would be enough. This time, I knew Travis would check the obvious places. He'd call stations. He'd lean on anyone he could intimidate. He wasn't smart, but he was persistent, and persistence can look like intelligence when no one stops it. So I flew. 2 hours later, I was in the air, watching the world shrink beneath me, my hands clenched around the armrests as if the plane might turn back on its own. When I landed, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. Like my body had finally stopped bracing for impact, and now it didn't know what to do with the silence. I kept my old SIM card this time. I didn't destroy it in a panic. I slid it into a cheap burner phone so I could see what was happening without letting anyone trace me. And then I let myself breathe. When I turned the burner phone on, it lit up like it was possessed. Missed calls. Voicemails. Messages stacked on messages. I opened the app and saw the first image. Lily. Her face was swollen, blotchy with marks that made my stomach drop, because I knew exactly what that meant. I knew exactly how quickly Travis could turn from cooling off to cruel. A voice message came in right after, Travis's voice thick with fury, shouting demands, threatening, raging like the world owed him obedience. For a moment, my hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. In my last life, that picture would have shattered me. It would have yanked me back by the throat, made me run straight into the trap like a moth into flame. This time, I forced my breathing to stay even. I wasn't going back. But I also wasn't going to pretend I didn't understand what I was looking at. I didn't reply to Travis. Instead, I made a call from a separate line, anonymous, clipped, factual. I reported what I knew, the history, the violence, the child in danger. I gave the address I was certain he'd still be at. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't beg. I simply put the truth into the system like a match dropped into dry grass. Then I turned the burner phone off. If Travis wanted a complete family, he could have it, without me as the buffer, without me as the shield, without me absorbing every explosion so everyone else could pretend the house was normal. A week passed before I turned the phone on again. The screen filled with hundreds of missed calls. Some from Travis. Some from unknown numbers. Some from someone I recognized immediately. Becky? Becky was my cousin by marriage, another woman who lived under a man's moods and called it love. In my last life, I texted her goodbye before I ran. She'd begged me to meet her for dinner, said she had something important to tell me. I'd refused because I was racing the clock, terrified Travis would come home early. Later I learned the truth, she hadn't been trying to help me. She'd been trying to hand me back. She called again. Right on cue. I answered. Hannah. Becky's voice hit my ear like a slap. Where are you? What is wrong with you? You just left your child. I leaned back against the wall of my new apartment, staring at the ceiling as if I could find patience up there. Did I? I asked softly. Travis is losing it, she hissed. He says you're trying to ruin him. Lily is crying. He's saying things, Hannah. Bad things. You need to come back before this goes too far. I pictured Becky, phone in one hand, fear in the other, still defending the men who broke them because the truth was too big to hold. I kept my voice calm. So she's alive. Becky sucked in a breath. Don't talk like that. This is your family. Family, I repeated, tasting the word like something bitter. Hannah, she said, switching into that tone women use when they're repeating something they've repeated 1,000 times to themselves. Marriage is hard. Everyone fights. He'll calm down. Men get gentler when they get older. You're almost there. Why throw everything away now? I almost laughed. Almost. Because I knew what that mindset cost. I'd paid it in bruises and silence and swallowed tears. Becky had paid it in the same currency and called it survival. You can keep your almost there, I said. I'm done. Her voice sharpened. He's looking everywhere for you. He said he'll do something to your parents' graves if you don't come home. Empty threats, I said. He likes scary words because they make people move. Becky went quiet for a beat, and I could practically hear her deciding what to do with my answers. I knew she was recording. People like Becky always did. They collected proof of other people's wrongness so they wouldn't have to face their own choices. So I gave her something clean. Something harmless. Something that would sound ridiculous no matter how she edited it. I let sarcasm drip into my voice. Tell him to go online and cry about it. The internet is huge now. He can tell everyone I abandoned him. Maybe he can turn it into content. Maybe he'll get famous. Hannah. I ended the call. And as the screen went dark, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not joy. Not revenge. Relief. Because this time, I wasn't running in circles inside a burning house. This time, I was finally out. And whatever Travis did next, he'd be doing it without my body standing between him and the consequences. I didn't even make it to midnight before my phone started buzzing again, new notifications, new tags, new strangers saying my name like they knew me. Travis moved fast when he thought there was money on the line. He made a fresh account and plastered it with photos of himself and Lily. He didn't pick flattering ones. He picked the ones that made him look tired and noble and wounded, like he'd been dragged through a storm for love. He posted a video with watery eyes, Lily curled into his side, both of them clutching each other like they were survivors of something I'd done. And then he told the world his version. I was an addict, apparently. I was unstable. I screamed. I hid. I disappeared for no reason. Lily nodded along on cue, sniffling like she was auditioning for a role she'd already memorized. Travis talked about sacrifice. About working hard. About being a good man who just wanted his wife back. He promised, with his hand pressed dramatically to his chest, that if I returned, he would accept anything. He'd take extra shifts. He'd cook. He'd clean. He'd be patient. He'd endure. At the end of the video, he flashed my old photo, an ID picture I hadn't even realized he still had. Enough information for people to start hunting. By morning it was everywhere. Strangers in comment sections were playing detective like it was a game. Someone recognized my face from a grocery store. Someone insisted they'd seen me on a bus. Women who looked nothing like me were getting photographed from behind and posted under my name. Every hour brought a new rumor, a new screenshot, a new wave of people who were wildly confident they knew the truth because they'd watched a man cry on camera. And the comments. The comments were a swarm. Some called me a monster. Some called me worse. Some said Lily would be better off without me, like they were doing community service by saying it. Travis sat in the center of it all, soaking it in like sunlight. Then he did what he always did when he realized attention could be turned into power. He went live. At first it was pure performance. He talked about heartbreak and betrayal. He thanked people for supporting a single dad. He talked about raising Lily alone like it was a heroic act and not something he'd force with his fists. When donations started coming in, his voice got sweeter. When follower counts jumped, he started smiling with that same practiced charm he used on neighbors. Within days, brands started showing up in his inbox. Small ones at first. Then bigger. He started slipping products into his live streams between sob stories, energy drinks, cheap gadgets, men's grooming kits, anything someone would pay him to hold up and claim changed his life. He didn't even wait until his story cooled down. He wanted money now. And Lily, my Lily, sat beside him as his prop, promising the audience she'd be good if her mom came home. She said she'd stop asking for snacks. She said she'd help with chores. She said she wouldn't talk back. She said it with shaking lips, like a child begging strangers to clap hard enough to bring her mother back. Watching it, I felt something twist in me. Not guilt. Not regret. A cold recognition that the mask Travis wore for the internet was the same mask he wore for the world. And he was getting away with it again. Only this time, I wasn't trapped inside the house with him. I was outside. And I still had a key to the truth. Because in my last life, before everything spiraled into my escape, I had started collecting evidence. Not because I thought I was brave. Because I knew, deep down, I would need proof one day. Proof that would matter to someone who wasn't scared of Travis. Proof that would outlive his charm. I'd installed a tiny camera in our living room months ago. Another in the hallway. Hidden angles. No obvious blinking lights. Nothing he'd ever notice, because Travis only paid attention to what served him. When I ran, I'd been so focused on getting out alive that I hadn't gone back for anything. But cameras don't stop recording just because you stop watching. So while the world was busy worshipping his tears, I sat alone in my new apartment and logged into the old, secure feed. The first clip I pulled up made my stomach go tight. There was Travis, still in the living room, still in the same spot where he filmed his little tragedy. He was holding Lily like a grieving saint, face angled perfectly toward the camera. Then the live ended. And the second the screen went dark, his entire expression changed. He shoved Lily away like she was a bag of laundry. No tears. No tenderness. No single dad act. Just irritation. He snapped at her to get up. To make food. To stop being useless. His voice wasn't loud for the internet. It was low and nasty, the kind of voice that always came right before something worse. Lily stumbled around the room, flinching at every movement, trying to be small enough not to trigger him. And it didn't matter. Because Travis didn't need a reason. He needed a target. I watched him bark orders at her, demand she call me, demand she lure me back. I watched Lily nod fast, eager to please, eager to survive, her fear finally bigger than her loyalty. And then I watched her do something that made my skin go numb. She told him she had an idea. She said she could send me something scary, something that would make me come running. Something irreversible. She talked about a picture she could pull from the internet. About a message that would sound like she'd reached a breaking point. Not because she was hurting, though she was. Because she wanted bait. She wanted my instincts to betray me the way hers had betrayed me. Travis liked the idea. You could see it in the way he leaned back, satisfied, like he'd just trained a dog to fetch. And Lily, my 8-year-old daughter, smiled like she'd finally done something clever. In that moment, I understood something that should have broken me in my last life, but didn't break me now. Lily wasn't just repeating her father's excuses. She was learning his methods. I saved everything? Not just the living room clips, either. There were more. A few days into his fame, Travis started bringing someone home, an office friend. He called her on camera. A good woman helping him cope. Her name was Crystal, and she wore sympathy like perfume. She laughed too loudly when he spoke. She touched his arm like she already owned him. Behind closed doors, she wasn't a helper. She was a prize. I watched Travis brag about how easy it was to turn the internet. How he was going to win the divorce before it even started. How he'd smear me until I had nothing left, then take the victim crown and cash it in. I watched Crystal nod along, eyes shining with that greedy kind of excitement people get when they think they're hitching themselves to a rising star. I watched them plan. I watched them lie. I watched them treat my life like content. And while they were busy building their little stage, I did what I had promised myself I would do from the moment I opened my eyes. I moved like a ghost. I didn't run in panic. I didn't react on impulse. I organized. It took me 2 full days to sort everything: dates, timestamps, clips, screenshots of injuries from years past, messages, voice notes, every quiet piece of proof I'd collected without even realizing I was building a case. I labeled files. I backed them up twice. I made sure nothing could accidentally disappear. Then I stopped hiding. Not my location. Never my location. But my voice. I logged into my old social accounts, the ones Travis thought he'd buried under his narrative, and I posted a single response. Not emotional. Not begging. Not defensive. Just truth. I didn't write long speeches. I didn't throw insults. I let the footage speak, frame by frame, the on-camera crying, the off-camera cruelty. The way he used Lily as a shield. The way he treated her the moment the performance ended. The way he talked about me like property. I posted it in a thread, clean and organized, like a prosecutor laying evidence on a table. And then I took the exact same package to the police. I filed for divorce. I filed for protection. I filed reports with everything I had, every bruise he'd ever explained away, every thread he'd ever whispered, every moment I had swallowed because I thought silence would keep Lily safe. It never had. Within hours, my post climbed. People love a villain until they realize they've been used. And the internet hates nothing more than being fooled. The same crowd that had called me a monster started turning on him. Commenters slowed down the clips. They replayed his face when the camera went off. They pointed out the way Lily's flinch wasn't acting. They recognized the patterns. Some apologized. Loudly. Some didn't. They just disappeared, pretending they hadn't been part of the mob. Reporters reached out. So did advocates. So did women who sounded like they were shaking while they typed, telling me they had watched him and recognized their own husband's smile. I agreed to one interview, one. Not because I wanted to be famous. Because I wanted to be believed in the places that mattered. I sat in front of a camera with my hands folded in my lap, and told the story the way it deserved to be told, plainly. Carefully. Without theatrics. I spoke about how violence doesn't start with fists. It starts with fear. With isolation. With a slow shrinking of your world until the only person left in it is the one hurting you. I said the one sentence I wish someone had said to me years ago. It doesn't happen once. It happens until you stop it. And I said something else, too, something that made my throat tighten as I forced the words out. Don't stay for the child. Because not every child becomes your reason to survive. Some children become the hand that pushes you back into the fire. That clip went everywhere. And Travis, who had built his little empire on pity, watched it crumble in real time. His sponsorships pulled out. His comments turned into knives. People demanded refunds for the gifts they'd sent him. His job caught heat. Parents didn't want their kids riding a bus driven by a man who could switch from family man to predator the moment he wasn't being watched. He tried to go live again. He tried to cry again. But the tears didn't work when everyone had seen what he did right after. Soon he stopped showing his face at all. And that was the point. Travis wasn't brave. Men like him never are. They're loud at home. They're small in the daylight. Weeks later, while all of this was still boiling, I realized there was one thing I still needed. My college diploma. A piece of paper, yes, but also proof that I had once had a life beyond being someone's wife, someone's punching bag, someone's dramatic problem. I went back for it the only way I could. With protection. With distance. With people around me who didn't flinch when Travis's name was mentioned. I walked into that house like it was a crime scene, because it was. I kept my eyes forward. I didn't pause to remember anything. I went straight to the bedroom, opened the drawer where I knew it had been, and pulled it out. Behind me, a small voice cracked. Mom? I turned. Lily stood in the hallway, smaller than I remembered, thinner than she should have been. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, desperate. For 1 second, my body did what it used to do. That old reflex: protect, comfort, absorb. Then the memories hit, sharp as glass. I didn't move toward her. Lily ran anyway, throwing herself at me like a life raft. "You came back," she sobbed. "I knew you wouldn't leave me. I knew it." I looked down at her hands gripping my sleeve like she could drag me back into the role she wanted. "No," I said, voice flat. "You misunderstood. I came for my diploma." Her head jerked up. Confusion flashed across her face, then fear. "Mom, please. Take me with you. I was wrong. I didn't know." "You knew," I said. Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard, like she was calculating which version of herself would work best. Then she whispered something that made the room go cold. "Mom," she said, eyes darting, "I remember it too." I didn't blink. I didn't ask what she meant. Because I already knew. That look in her eyes, the way she watched me like an opponent, not a parent, wasn't new. It was old. It was familiar. It was the look she'd had in court. The look she'd had when she stood next to him and said it had been a mistake. Lily tightened her grip. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I was scared. He tricked me. He threatened me. I didn't mean to." I raised my hand. Not to comfort her. Not to wipe her tears. To end the performance. My palm met her cheek in a sharp, clean slap. Not hard enough to injure, hard enough to interrupt. Lily stared at me like I'd broken a rule she thought I'd follow forever. "I don't have a reason to forgive you," I said softly. "I didn't before. I don't, now." She made a sound, half sob, half rage. "You can't do this. I'm your daughter." "You were," I said. The words tasted like grief and steel. And then I did the final thing I never did in my last life. I used her desperation as evidence. I hit record on my phone, her begging, her excuses, her confession that she remembered, and I walked out without looking back. In the car, with my diploma on my lap like a passport to my future, I unblocked Travis for the first time in weeks. I sent him the audio file. One line. Nothing more. "Handle your daughter. Don't let her contact me again." I knew exactly what that would do. To Travis, Lily wasn't his child. She was his property. And property wasn't allowed to choose me over him. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I wanted to run back. Because I knew Travis would do what Travis always did when his ego bled. He would punish the closest thing. The next morning, I got notifications, sirens in digital form. People messaging me. News alerts. A brief report about police responding to a domestic disturbance. A neighbor had called. Lily had screamed. And someone, for once, had listened. Travis was detained for a short time. He cried to the officers. He signed papers. He promised he'd change. He performed remorse like it was a job interview. They let him go. Because systems love apologies. And because people still call it family conflict when it's really violence. Lily ended up in a hospital bed for a few days, monitored and treated for what she'd endured. I didn't go. I didn't call. I didn't send flowers or guilt or forgiveness. I had already spent a lifetime paying for her choices. With me out of reach, the authorities contacted Travis's mother, Marlene. A woman who'd never looked at Lily like she was worth much. A woman who believed boys were blessings and girls were burdens and anyone who complained deserved what they got. Marlene took Lily in the way you take an astray, reluctant, resentful, loud about how inconvenient it is. I saw one clip online later, filmed by someone outside their apartment, Marlene dragging Lily by the wrist, snapping at her to walk faster, to stop crying, to stop being dramatic. And Lily, my Lily, didn't argue. She just shrank. It would have broken my heart in my last life. This time, it only confirmed something I'd finally accepted. I wasn't cruel for leaving. I was alive because I did. The divorce moved fast after that. Evidence has a way of speeding things up. Public pressure does, too. I showed up to sign papers with security nearby and cameras around, Not because I wanted a spectacle, but because I understood what men like Travis do when they realize they're losing control. He showed up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, shoulders hunched like he was trying to look harmless. His hand hovered near his waistband once, like he wanted to reach for something and remembered too late that witnesses existed. And he didn't do it. Because Travis wasn't brave. He was just loud. When the papers were finalized, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a decade. I didn't look back at him. I didn't listen to whatever words he tried to throw at my leaving. I walked out into sunlight like I belonged there. In the car, someone beside me, one of the guards, said quietly, "He's the type who only hurts people smaller than him." I nodded. All of them are. As we drove away, I glanced out the window and saw a small figure near the corner of the building, half hidden behind a post. Lily. Watching. Her face was thin, her eyes too old for 8. For 1 second, my chest tightened. A single, sharp pull of something that used to be maternal instinct. Then I remembered the rental apartment door splintering open. I remembered the court. I remembered her voice, saying she just wanted a complete family. And the tightness passed. I didn't know her my life again. Time moved. I rebuilt quietly, carefully. I stayed off the streets when the internet was still hungry. I stocked my fridge. I kept my head down. I let the noise burn itself out. And somewhere in the distance, life kept happening without me. I heard, through the cracks of gossip I never asked for, that Lily eventually fought back in the only way a trapped child can. That Travis got sick. That he didn't recover fully. That he ended up stuck in a bed, furious and helpless, and that Lily swore it hadn't been her fault. No proof. No case. Just a household rotting from the inside. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not exactly. I felt closure. Because I finally understood something the old me never could. Karma doesn't always arrive as lightning. Sometimes it arrives as your own character, playing out in the same room, with no one left to blame. One night, I had a dream. The kind that feels like a memory borrowed from someone else. In it, Travis walked out of jail like he'd done before, older, meaner, still convinced the world owed him. He found another woman. He built another family. He had the son he always wanted. And Lily, useful for a while, became invisible the moment a boy arrived. In that dream, Lily tried to run. And no one came. I woke up with my heart steady. Because whether that future happened or not didn't matter anymore. It wasn't mine. My paperwork for studying abroad sat on the table by my bed, clean and official, stamped and approved. Germany. A fresh start so far away it felt like another planet. The morning I left, I didn't post about it. I didn't announce it. I didn't seek applause. I just packed a suitcase with my own clothes this time. My own documents. My own future. And as the plane lifted, I looked out at the shrinking city and felt something I had never felt with Travis, never felt with Lily, never felt inside that house. Space. Breathing room. A life that belonged to me. The road ahead was open. And for the first time, I wasn't running. I was leaving.